they're just really obsessed with the Jews. They they have this whole thing that they'll call you an anti-Semite, but never a liar. And I'm looking at the things they say about Jews, and I'm thinking, no, you're like a liar. You're like a blatant liar. Do you know what the Talmud is?
Heard of it, but I can't say I'm an expert.
Yeah, so the Talmud is a book it's essentially Jewish Reddit. A bunch of ancient rabbis got together and they're like, okay, let's try to figure out certain laws in Torah. Let's sort of clarify the things written in the Torah. Meaning, let's say that in the Torah it says you can't cut the hair off the 5 corners of your face. But then it's like, okay, what are the 5 corners of your face, and what the hell is even considered cutting?
Yeah.
So, the Talmud is essentially trying to figure that out. It's open discussion. Majority of the things in there are hearsay. It's not a book of law. It's just, you want to figure out how you get to a final law. So it's usually those guys figuring those things out. And you have these guys like Dan Bilzerian, who freaking, by the way, has a weird ass haircut. And no, I'm just saying, no, I'm like, it's kind of interesting. And he like trims his beard to give himself a fake jawline, which completely unrelated. Point is, he'll say stuff like, well, it says in their Talmud, which I don't know how he got mood from that, that people that aren't Jewish are considered animals. And I'm like, where the hell does it say it? They'll quote, I think it's like Yevamos 98b. I don't know what it is, like some quote in the Talmud, and he'll say, yeah, it says non-Jews are animals. And I'm like, I learned that shit when I was in school, when I was younger, before becoming a rabbi, and it's like not at all what it says. And those lies spread so quickly and easily on Twitter because it sort of became a justification for a lot of people on Twitter to not like Jews, because it's like, oh, look, their holy book, which isn't even a rule book, by the way, says that we're animals. So, screw them. We'll use this as an excuse. You look inside the verse and it's like, it doesn't say that at all. The Talmud is like having listen, I'll debunk it in like 2 minutes, because that's how easy it is to debunk this stuff. It says, I believe in that area, it's talking about saying the Shema prayer. It's a Jewish prayer that Jews say. So it's basically talking about, are you allowed to say that prayer in front of like someone who's naked, right? Could you say prayers in front of naked people? Because the Talmud's just trying to cover every damn topic. There's so much just boring stuff in there. How many walls is considered a hut? But just random conversations, because you have to get to a final law, right? So they're saying, can you say the Shema prayer in front of someone who's naked? So they're like, can you say it in front of a Jewish naked guy? No, you can't. But then they're like, ooh, what if you said it? Could you say it in front of an animal? Because an animal is technically naked, right? So is that allowed? So they say, no, you could say it in front of an animal because it's different levels of nakedness. Obviously, an animal's always naked. And then it's like, and then it mentions also, somebody who's not Jewish, you can't say the Shema prayer in front of them if they're naked. That's what it says there. Right, that's what it says. And then right after the next line, and I'm going to get to a point here. The next line, it says that why specify between Jewish and non-Jewish, right? Why not just say all humans, you can't say a prayer in front of them if they're not dressed. So then it says that one could think, because it said in like the prophets, I believe, when it was talking about the ancient Egyptians in Egypt, where, they enslaved and raped the Jewish, just did terrible atrocities to the Jewish people. And they also practiced bestiality, did very just disgusting things. So it says in those prophets that it described it poetically, or because the prophets have a very unique way to describe things. It was more metaphor. It says whose flesh was like flesh of donkeys, talking about those ancient Egyptians who would just do bestiality and practice terrible, terrible things. And it was metaphor. It wasn't saying literally, right? It's just saying they acted freaking terrible. So one could think, this is what the Talmud's saying, because they'll just freaking ask about anything. One could think that because it mentioned that about ancient Egyptians, therefore, like, I guess anyone who isn't Jewish, maybe they'll think they're like flesh of donkeys, and they're all considered animals, and therefore you could say this prayer in front of them. And then a line later, it says, no, that's not true. All humans are made in the image of God. You cannot say the Shema prayer in front of anyone who's naked. Yeah, because we're all made in the image of God. So you have Dan Bilzerian, and he'll be like, your Talmud says, they'll just strip that entire thing, remove full context, which I just explained it about to you, a couple minutes, and they'll say, Jews believe that the non-Jews are cattle, and they'll plop it on Twitter. They'll put it in a screenshot, and then bam. And now like everyone thinks that we hate cattle. They think that we have like a derogatory term for people who aren't Jewish. The word that they use because it's a Hebrew word. It's called goy or goyim. I don't know if you've heard that word before.
No.
So goy means nation, goyim means nations. And it's usually in this context of like, basically, if you're not Jewish, that's basically what it means. They'll just lie and say that it means cattle. That like if you call someone a goy, which Jews don't even use it like we don't even use that in our day-to-day conversation. They think that we're calling people goy and goyim and calling them animals. But it literally means nations, and you'll just have these guys. They'll just say, they call us animals. They think we're animals. They think we're terrible people.